First, I'll draw a simple circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to create a solid foundation, not a perfect shape. Next, I'll draw a vertical center line that divides the circle in half. Then I'll add a horizontal brow line across it. Now look at the lower half of the circle. I'll go down 1/3 of that section to place the nose line. From this point, I can determine both the hairline and the chin line. Here's the first secret of the Loomis method. The distance from the hairline to the brow line is equal to the distance from the brow line to the nose, and that is also equal to the distance from the nose to the chin. Remembering these three equal measurements will help you build accurate facial proportions every time. Now let's move to the second step. After creating the basic Loomis construction, we need to adjust the head according to the reference. Notice that the face is looking slightly downward. You can tell because the nose and the mouth don't sit on the same horizontal level. To create this downward angle, I simply move all of the horizontal construction lines slightly downward. These horizontal guides are what control whether the head looks up, down, or straight ahead. Understanding this concept is much more important than memorizing the lines. Next, I'll measure the distance from the nose to the chin. In this pose, that distance is equal to the length of the nose itself. Now I'll connect the chin to the sides of the circle. While drawing the jawline, I constantly compare it to the reference. I pay special attention to the outer end of the eyebrow because it helps me judge the angle correctly. You'll also notice that the jawline usually follows a similar angle to the ear. Next, I'll divide the space between the brow line and the nose line into 3 equal parts. The eye line is placed on the upper third. This rule works for every head angle, but the position changes as the head rotates. We'll explain that in future lessons when we cover different angles. Now, I'll continue constructing the side of the face, starting from the ear area. I estimate the distance from the outer corner of the eyebrow to the hair beside the ear. This helps me locate the side of the forehead correctly. Then, I'll draw the hairline from the inside before repeating the same process on the opposite side. Next comes the neck. I don't guess the neck width. Instead, I compare it directly to the face in the reference. I imagine vertical guidelines to see exactly where the neck begins, then I place it. If I notice any mistakes later, I simply adjust it. Construction is always flexible. Now, let's place the ear. The ear is generally at the same height as the nose, but there's an important detail. The ear is not perfectly vertical. It follows the same angle as the jawline. Also, because the ear sits slightly behind the face, its visible height often appears a little shorter than the nose. Many beginners forget this small perspective effect, but it makes a big difference. Now, I'll continue with the outer shape of the hair. The ear helps determine the side position of the hair, while the top of the hair extends slightly beyond the circle because the circle only represents the skull. Hair naturally adds extra volume outside that shape. After that, I'll finish the neck and sketch the clothing, while constantly comparing everything to the proportions of the face. Now, let's begin placing the facial features. I'll start with the nose. On the nose line, I'll place 2 points that represent the width of the nose. I don't guess this width. Instead, I compare the width of the nose to the overall width of the face in the reference. Then, I recreate the same proportion in my drawing. If it looks too wide or too narrow, I adjust those 2 points until the relationship matches. This is one of the easiest ways to improve likeness. Next, I'll draw 2 vertical guidelines upward from those points until they reach the eye line. From this, we discover another important Loomis proportion. The width of the nose is approximately equal to the space between the 2 eyes. Now let's draw the nose itself. I begin with the wings of the nose, making sure both sides match each other. Then I carefully add the nostrils without rushing. After that, I define the light and shadow planes of the nose. The shadows are not random. They are created by the anatomy of the nose, the connection between the front cartilage, the wings of the nose, and the upper cartilage. Understanding the structure makes shading much easier. Now let's draw the right eye. I start from the guideline coming up from the nose. I begin at the tear duct, then carefully build the eye shape. Notice that the lower eyelid almost follows the eye guideline. It only sits slightly below it. Next, I draw the thickness of the upper eyelid because that's where the eyelashes grow. Pay attention here. The upper and lower eyelashes are very different. The upper eyelashes grow from the entire thickness of the upper eyelid. They are thicker, darker, and more noticeable. The lower eyelashes are much thinner and grow only from the edge of the lower eyelid. These small details make the eyes look much more realistic. Next, I draw the upper eyelid crease by estimating its distance from the eyelid itself. Then, I place the iris in the center of the eye. Only after finishing the eye do I draw the eyebrow. This is the correct way to place eyebrows. Don't depend only on the original brow construction line. Let the finished eye guide the final eyebrow position. Now I'll move to the left eye. In this reference, the eye is almost closed, so I begin by drawing the upper eyelid in a way that resembles the lower eyelid shape. That's because the movement of the eyelid is mainly created by the upper lid. After finishing the eye, I place the eyebrow using the eye as my reference. Finally, let's draw the mouth. I'll divide the distance from the nose to the chin into 2 equal parts. Then I'll divide the upper half again. This helps me locate the upper lip, which usually resembles a soft letter V. Then I'll move slightly downward and determine the thickness of both lips. Next, I'll draw the opening of the mouth first, because it determines the overall width. Again, I compare everything to the nose. The nose acts as the central reference for the rest of the facial features. Finally, I'll complete the lower lip, which is usually larger and fuller than the upper lip. And that's it. We've completed the proportions of the front view face using the Loomis method. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned something valuable. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next lesson.